and thank you for joining us on the program. I am Sarah Osansa. It's a beautiful new year, and have I told you Happy New Year? Okay, you just heard it. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Now, like I said, it's a new year, and a lot of people are looking at what the year is going to bring. Individuals, organizations, corporate bodies, families are looking at what the new year it has in store for them, particularly in terms of the economy. And that's where we'll be dwelling on this morning. That's where the focus of our conversation is going to be on the economic outlook for the year 2023. What does 2023 have in store for us? Aside the fact that 2023 is the year for the general elections, what should we expect from other sectors? Agriculture, aviation, infrastructure, power sector, telecommunication sector, you name it. What should we expect? And we have our guest in person of Ayo Emakiome, who is an economic expert, and he'll be joining us on the conversation to talk about the economic predictions for the year 2023. There have been several reports published by the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, talking about the economic situation of Nigeria and what it looks like from time to time. The year, I believe that if we recall, the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic really shook the economic state of the country. Businesses were affected. A lot of businesses have not recovered. Some businesses had to even shut down owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this has caused it has stirred the waters of several businesses in Nigeria and the economy at large. Also, the country is experiencing brain drain. A lot of people are relocating, young minds are relocating out of the country, medical doctors, teachers, you name it, tech gurus, tech experts are relocating out of the country, looking for better pasture and greener pastures. This is affecting the economy of Nigeria because if the good heads leave, what is going to be left? We cannot forget the Russia-Ukraine crisis of 2022 that led to hike in the price of bread and flour produce, diesel prices skyrocketed. Businesses had to make adjustments to their working hours because of the price of diesel. A lot of businesses could not even run because it was very impossible to get diesel at a point. And then now come down to the price of cooking gas. At a point, the country experienced a hike in the price of cooking gas, as well as price of petrol. The petrol scarcity and the price of petrol conversation was trending throughout the month of December, and even in the early days of 2023, there's still some sort of scarcity as well as hiking price. All of these things are the challenges that the economy of Nigeria is facing, and these are the things we want to look into. What are the economic projections for 2023 is where we'll be focusing today. We want to break now. When we're back, our guest, Ayo Emakiome, will be joining us to talk about this. Do not go anywhere. All right, thank you for staying tuned. If you just joined us, we're talking about the economic predictions for the year 2023. And like I said earlier, before we went on the break, there's so many things that have caused a lot of concerns in the minds of Nigerians. A lot of things have affected the economy. The COVID-19 pandemic, came and affected the whole economy. The Russia-Ukraine crisis, this has led to hike in the cost of flour and other materials. But right now we have our guest in person of Ayo Emakiome, who would be breaking all of this down and giving us a proper perspective so we understand what exactly we're talking about. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Ayo Emakiome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So very quickly, let's delve into the conversation of the day. The IMF, the NBS, other economic agencies have given us statistics of what the economic situation for Nigeria Nigeria and the world at large looks from time to time. Now, let's narrow it down to Nigeria with the forthcoming elections, the 2023 general elections. Do you think these elections will have any effect on local and international businesses in Nigeria? Let's start from there.
Okay. This year, not next year anymore, is a
This year.
wonderful year. Is
Mm-hmm.
It's a year that we have to divide into 2 years.
Mm.
That's virtually two halves. The first half is the election, that's pre and election itself. And then the second half is post-election and the new regime taking over.
Okay.
So that's how I'll have it. So in the first half, yes, everything, all hands on deck right now towards electing a new president or having a new government on ground. And so most things are heading towards that. For example, economic growth, which has slowed down, will still slow down further
Mm.
because everybody is focused on the election. Nobody will be worried about what it is to correct the slow of the economic growth or what to do and all that. And same thing with unemployment. It's already heading towards 40%. I don't see that stopping, although it won't get to 40% this first half, but it might get there by the second half. So that will be there. Not much activity will be done generally. Usually around the election period in Nigeria, foreign investors pull out their funds because they don't know what really will happen. And
Mm.
so the stock market itself will drop. Funds
Okay.
in the stock market, investable funds, even FDIs, foreign direct investments will drop. Everybody will be waiting to see who is the next president and what will the next government be doing and how would it be in their favor.
Okay.
So generally, that's what will happen this first half. But it's not all doom or all gloom because Dangote refinery is expected to come on stream this first half of the year, which is supposed to be between now and I think February or March. So Dangote refinery will come up. And also by June, hopefully even before June, we are going to have the situation of removal of subsidy. So
That
yes.
conversation on removal of subsidy, we know that it has been one that it has been going around in circles for a very, very long time. Now, what is the possibility that it would finally come into place this June 2023? And what should we expect? What is the implication of this?
Okay. Subsidy removal. Even if nothing from all the four main political parties running for taking over of the government, they all agree. That's one thing they all agree on, that subsidy removal is inevitable because it's the only way forward for the country. That means that irrespective of the party that takes over government, be the incumbent or whichever one, subsidy removal has come to stay. The government cannot continue. The money we are spending on subsidy is more than what all the other states combined have spent to run their states in the
Wow.
last 1 year. That's
Wow.
how bad it is. The country cannot continue. We are borrowing. Our new budget, up to 12 trillion out of our 21 trillion, is going to deficit. And that deficit does not take cognizance to subsidy. So now imagine putting subsidy in it. We are already running at 98% debt to revenue ratio. If you add subsidy to it, we are going to 100 and something percent. That's where Ghana is. And already you can see they are having problems. They can't even repay their debts anymore. The country is going down. We don't expect Nigeria to follow that line. So subsidy removal is a non-negotiable. But sadly, when that happens, we expect the price of our local petrol to go up. But it won't be as high as we were predicting because the Dangote refinery would have come in. And so because they are on stream, we'll be buying from them.
Yeah.
And so getting our supply from the Dangote refinery to be at the exchange rates, not at the international markets.
Okay.
Some costs to be taken out, sorry. So those costs reduce our cost of buying for like the landing cost and all those other associated costs. Although it will still be at the normal international exchange market rates, which if we use our benchmark, is at 75, is at $81 to the barrel. So we will still be buying at that rate. But all the associated costs for which subsidy had to be brought in will now be removed. And so if those are removed, if we expected, like someone predicted, our oil to be at 400 naira per liter, it might be somewhere around 250 to 300, which it already is as we speak, per liter. And just like it happened in the era of GSM, I know a lot of things will come in and those prices will change and it will come down or remain at that level for a long time to come. So if the economy keeps growing and the oil price remains constant, not just rising constantly, then at some point it will be more affordable for the people, for the common man anyway. So that's what we are expecting to happen.
Right.
We hope the economy at some point grows and remains growing.
Okay, we hope it keeps growing. Now, like you said, the elections this year, we've talked about it already, but what sectors, what areas are we expecting to see a drastic change from? Are we looking at the agricultural sector? Are we looking at telecoms? What areas do you think, with the look of things, we should be expecting changes from?
Generally, in the whole economy, there will be a lot of changes. Why? There's a change of leadership. Be it a Tinubu with his policies, or a Labour Party with their policy, or a PDP with their policies, or I think NPP, whichever one, they are coming with drastic changes. But as an economy, we'll be seeing a lot of effects from things from last year. For example, the flooding that destroyed a lot of farm produce means that there will be scarcity in supply of food. And with that, food prices will go up. If food prices goes up, that means our inflation would rise higher than the 21, almost 22% we are already. But that's for the first half. By the second half, whichever government is there, I expect them to focus on agriculture and food supply. And at that point, I expect us to close the year with an inflation level of around 19%, which is just slightly better than what we are starting the year with.
Isn't it possible to go below the 19%, if things are done right? Or with the economy of the country, we can't go below that from your projection?
Yes, with the current economy, food prices will go up and will not change overnight because those food items has to be planted and grown and harvested again. So it's not instant. Then cost of transportation, which is a key mover of the economy, would go up because fuel prices have gone up. And if they go up, that still affects inflation. Unemployment, like I said, will not just crash. The level of unemployment will not crash. So if it doesn't just crash overnight, automatically it can either rise or remain as high as it already is, which also affects inflation. The brain drain will not just stop overnight. There are so many people that have done so many things towards ensuring they leave the country, irrespective of what happens. And then we hear the European economy, specifically the British, are coming for our teachers. And a lot of teachers are already preparing themselves to be carried away.
Yes, actually, because I've been seeing, updates, and not just I've been talking about how they want to get all their processes done and just relocate,
Yes. And so with that, we are having more brain drain. Only Lagos State has said they are going to do something about it. What about the other states? What about the federal government? Nobody seems to be interested. And so if that is not addressed too, inflation cannot come down anytime soon. It can come down 4 basic points. That's from 21% to 17 or 18%. That's heavy. So, and I am expecting any of the government to address it. So if they do that, yes, 4% drop in inflation is very good. And I hope that 4 or 5% drop. I expect that to happen. But 2024 will be far better than this with the new government, really. But the FIRS, with their new automated systems and online systems, their revenue would only increase from what it is for last year. In fact, it would drastically increase, which means there'll be more revenue for government to further reduce the deficits that we need to finance. Then, of course, our expense due to removal of subsidy, our expense on subsidy will drop. And so government revenue would also increase relatively because we are no more financing subsidy. And each state will now have more funds available from government for running their own government. I expect a lot of dynamism and innovation from different states in terms of their tax and IJR so as to increase their revenue too. And if they do that, then there'll be more revenue available and the economy I expect a slight rise in the economy. Presently, we close at around 2.5% GDP growth. I don't see it improving this first half of the year because still is election year. Same thing, everything will grind to a halt, expecting to hear and see the new government. But by the second half of the year, I expect a growth pedestal to start. So the economy will be growing somewhere around, we'll be closing with somewhere around 3% GDP growth. Export revenue for the first half would, well, let's say stay low and constant, but by the second half, there should be a rise. Now, a key deciding factor is the issue of the exchange rates. We have multiple exchange rates presently. I expect that remains because that's the current government's policy this first half of the year. But by the second year, I expect the new government to harmonize it. Let it be either harmonized or allowed to float such that the rate is decided by the vagaries of demand and supply. That would increase foreign investments. That would increase FX rate because then it will also reduce round tripping. And if it reduces round tripping, because a lot of people will buy from the official market and go and sell at the parallel markets because the difference is so wide. And so it's more profitable to round trip, which is not helping the economy. Instead, it's drawing the economy down. But if that issue is addressed and there's now a unified, a unified exchange rate or a floating rate, automatically there'll be more investment in terms of there'll be more FDIs, number one. Number two, the economy will be more predictable, so there'll be more investment available and there'll be more inflows of foreign funds. Also, with the subsidy being removed, then automatically, the issue with the removal of subsidy will also help inflation.
Okay.
And so that's part of the 5% I'm saying that I expect to be a drop in inflation from the 21-22% to somewhere around. I expect inflation to get to as high as 23% this first half. But by the second half, it should drop so that we should close the year with about 17-18%. And that removal of subsidy effect is part of what will make that work. Whichever is the new government, I expect them to focus on agriculture and industry, that's manufacturing. If they can kickstart those two sectors and focus on it, we expect unemployment to drop. We expect inflation to drop further.
So you're talking about agriculture and industry. Now, I know that agriculture is supposed to be one of the major sources for funds and produce and everything in Nigeria. However, the agricultural sector in Nigeria is bedeviled with several challenges. You mentioned one earlier, which had to do with the issue of flooding, which you experienced last year that affected a whole lot of farmlands. Also, insecurity. Insecurity cannot be left out. We've gotten cases where these farmers are being attacked by bandits, unknown gunmen, or whatever you call them. Since agriculture is a major sector that you are even advising the incoming administration to channel energy into, what do you think? Because in all honesty, we've had this conversation a couple of times, multiple times people have talked about it, invest into the agricultural sector and all that. What exactly are the concrete means and strategies that you would advise the incoming government to do in order to boost and stabilize the agricultural sector of Nigeria?
The concrete solutions are at macro and micro levels. So at macro levels, we need to address this constant flooding. And one of the issues there is not an overnight fix, which is the dredging of at a macro level, the agricultural issues that needs to be addressed are one, the dredging of the rivers that causes the flooding of the key areas of available for harvesting, and business would be good because the agricultural sector after government is the highest employer of labor. And so if the agricultural sector is kickstarted back to what it used to be, automatically unemployment will drastically reduce and there will be more labor outside the availability of food. Then government needs to upgrade our agricultural sector from primary to the industrial level, where we don't export primary agricultural products. We export processed agricultural products like yam flour, like canned juices and fruits and foods. Instead of just exporting them, even like our yam, instead of just exporting it as ordinary yam, they should process it. Our beans, the same thing. Our rice, the same thing. Our palm oil, we are supposed to have one of the best palm oil in the world, but what's happening to it? The government needs to stop paying lip service to this. Then, of course, the key issue, transportation. Yes, the current administration has worked so hard on the road infrastructure, but is road the only way? They've tried something with rail, but we know what happened with insecurity.
Yeah.
So they need to
Even
go back
roads are
to
not
it.
secure.
Yes, they need to go back to it and deal with the insecurity thing. Outside just providing roads, they should also now work on the rail system and increase the focus on moving things like our petroleum products and our agricultural products via rail. And when they do that, it reduces the cost of that movement and also reduces the wear and tear on the roads. But they shouldn't stop on creating more roads. They should continue with that, but work on alternative. The dredging of the rivers would also now help with more waterways transport. A lot of the country is connected by water. If they now work on that, then at a macro level, that would have a major effect on agricultural produce and agriculture as an industry. Having done that, at the micro level, farming is a capital-intensive market where finance is not supposed to be for short term. Most of the finance available in the country today is short term. Nobody wants to do beyond 12 months. Government needs to now enact enabling policies that makes finance for the agricultural sector long-term, a minimum of 5 years funding available at single digit cost. If they can do that, the agricultural sector will be turned around. And then, of course, available of technology and implements. Technology is another thing that is not available in the agricultural sector today. Government needs to create an enabling environment to make sure more of that is available. And talking of technology, we know that our telecoms industry is being transformed such that many of them are coming up as banks. In fact, the biggest bank in Nigeria today is a tech firm. The most valuable company is a tech firm. So, and more of them. Yes, if the tech firms are encouraged and being worked on, is one of the fastest way of transforming the economy. And so that is essential, which I expect the incoming government to look at and work on. The current government, I don't think they're even interested in anything now except winning the elections or having their incumbent take over. So their current policy is what we'll be running with. But the new ones should look at how they can partner with tech to transform the economy. Because if they do that, even these predictions we are making can be far better than what it is presently. They can be far better because the tech is king
right.
for all forms of transformation.
Talking about tech now, that brings me to the period of the COVID-19 pandemic when it was pretty intense in Nigeria, talking about the year 2020. We had our lockdown in March 2020, and we saw
Yes.
the tech industry booming because then everything became virtual. Technology was properly utilized at that period. Meetings were now, most of this online platforms became more popular during that period. But fast forward to middle of 2020, towards the end of 2020, we could somehow, there was a decline. And then we could see that some of these tech gurus, in quotes, were also leaving the country because they claim that currently Nigeria is not really an enabling environment for them to thrive. How then do we properly manage that situation? Because technology, like you said, is something that cannot be eroded. It's something that is very vital, and we need it as a country.
Yes. Okay. The looking at the so many solutions and so many angles to deal with this challenge, one of the main one is the one I had mentioned earlier, which is because let's first look at why are these tech people leaving. One of them is the issue of the policies of the government,
Mm.
which does not seem to be in favor of them. But there's a recent new policy that is government's what you call olive branch towards partnering with them and supporting them. But they are still not staying. Why? Because of the exchange rate. If
Wow.
they are in Nigeria, they earn, even if they earn 1 million naira, what is 1 million naira and $2,000? $2,000 is more than 1 million naira today. So they rather leave because it's only logical to where they will earn more money. So if the government can create a floating interest rate, $2,000 is $2,000 anyway, and 1 million naira is whatever it is. And so many of them will now want to stay with the hope that, any increase in their revenue is the same thing as it is in the anywhere else in the world because the world is a global village. But our economy is not supporting that. Our naira is dropping in value. So they rather go to where there's more earnings. And then government needs to now create more support for the telecom sector, like I said, so that they also, like our move to 5G, it is so slow.
Mm.
Yes, on paper, we are now on 5G, but in reality, are
We
we?
are not.
No. So government needs to now improve on that so that tech is what it is anywhere else in the world and implementation is carried out. And then, yes, in 2020, towards the end, it seemed to be dwindling. That's the proliferation of tech, but it didn't seem to be dwindling. What was now required was a higher level of tech from the basic of, work from home, have meetings, and do all that. We now needed innovative tech, which it is a 5G that will run that. And also, Nigerians are who they are. We are socialists. We are social animals. We are not like a lot of other climes where it's all about the business. No. So immediately we realize, okay, I can go out now. I would rather see you than talk to you virtually. So that's what
Actually,
happened. So we now need to have innovative tech such that it will combine our culture as Nigerians with the tech way of doing business or relating. If that can be done, automatically there will be a monumental increase in tech. But how can that be done? It still goes back to creating an enabling environment for people to sit down and come up with such solutions because those abroad cannot provide those solutions for us. Anything they do, it is based on the environment they are and where they are coming from,
mm,
which will not work here. But if our tech people are being encouraged to first, those abroad to come, those here to stay, then they are inside here. And so they were able to create tech solutions that are homegrown and for us here as Nigerians. So that's, I feel, is what we need to be doing now.
right.
Also, we shouldn't remove the position or the place of power. Power supply seemingly has improved, but has it actually improved?
Some people will
So
not
that
hold this
needs,
opinion with you. A
I said
lot of Nigerians.
seemingly. That's why I first said seemingly. But I now ask the question, has it improved? You and I know, yes, the government has rolled out a lot of policies and projects. Will they keep to ensuring these projects are completed? If they do, our power situation would improve. And if it improves, then automatically the tech people now have reason to stay. They have more reason, sorry, to stay because there's now available power such that because tech is also driven by power availability. So if there's more power available, then they will stay to be able to provide more solutions that are homegrown and the economy will be better for it.
Right.
So
Okay, so with all of this, yeah, we know that the CBN has several monetary policies. Now, the CBN puts up monetary policies, to sustain a level of economy and keep unemployment low, protect the value of the currency, as well as maintain economic growth. And in the space of some months now, we've gotten some policies that the CBN has put in place, one of which is the withdrawal limits, which was later upgraded from 100,000 naira per week to 500,000 naira per week for individuals, as well as the redesigning of the naira, which came into circulation on the 15th of December 2022. Now, talking about all of these things, some of the reasons the CBN gave was to, curtail the economic crisis, manage inflationary pressure, have the what's this thing called cashless policy come into place. Now, with all of these strategies and policies that the Central Bank of Nigeria is putting in place, how would this really cause a boom to the economy? Because some analysts are of the opinion that this would actually stagger, make the economy stagger for a while because Nigeria is not ready for all of this. While some believe that eventually it would be beneficial to the economy. Let us understand in your own perspective, all of these policies, these monetary policies that the central bank is putting together, how will this lead to an economic boom for Nigeria?
okay. First of all, I have to give it to the CBN governor. With what he is doing so much at the same time, all in the name of improving the economy. So many policies, so many models, even innovative, that is unusual models of running as a central bank. He has come up with so many of them. And here and there, they have positive and otherwise effects up and down. But you see, so far, to me, he's running as a lone ranger. And to succeed as an economy or as a government, the government is a team and there should be a sync. See, the other day, the Minister of Finance says she's not aware about the Naira devaluation.
Yes.
I mean, Naira, the bringing in of new Naira redesign. It shows they are not unified. And they have a team leader. And for a country to move forward, there must be a unified direction. CBN is doing their own. Yes, they are getting approval and support from the federal government. But the Ministry of Finance is also doing their own, running on another lane with a different pedestal and so sort of getting support too from the federal government. But what is the federal government's direction? We need a new government that will give us one direction, saying this is where we are going. So that when a CBN, yes, that is one vision. So that when a CBN is carrying out their policies is in line with the federal government's vision. When a Ministry of Finance is carrying out their own policy too, it will fall into and in line with what the CBN is doing and what the federal government says they have in mind. But right now, CBN is running one way, Ministry of Finance is running another direction. Federal government is not saying anything. And then I said that's not enough. Even the states are now running in so many different directions, with one suing that they want to collect VAT, the other one coming from another angle. Everybody, it's confusing. And there can't be progress in the midst of confusion. We need the government to now sit down and give one direction and as a team hold everybody together. So yes, there will still be rambles here and there, but we will all be going one way, which is something that needs to be addressed urgently. Yes, we know right now the government doesn't even seem to be interested in any other thing because they've done all they want to do as at December. All they have in their head now is to remain in power, which is next month. So that will not be addressed. But I expect the new government to now specifically address that where are we going as a government? What are we after? What do we want to achieve? Because when you do that, not only CBN and the Ministry of Finance will be on your side, even the citizens. So that even when any of these people are falling out of place, the citizens who are aware of where the government is going will remind the ministers and the leaders, whoever they are, that this is the direction our government said, which we support. So this is how we want to go. And everybody will be boundaries are set and everybody moves towards that direction. And that is part of the steps towards success. But are we there right now? No.
Right.
So those are things that needs to be addressed.
Okay. While I prepare to wrap up the conversation with you, I know that this is the time where Nigerians are bothered. We're still in the festive season, I must say. The celebration is still on, and a lot of people were lamenting about how the period was because of the stiff economy that we have. So, in 1 minute, 2 minutes, what word of encouragement would you give to Nigerians? Because Nigerians really want a change. We all want a change. We want things to get better. We want the economy to get better. The prices of commodities are going up. Salaries are not going up. So how Nigerians are struggling with striking a balance. So as an economic expert, as an analyst, from your projections and everything you've talked about, just in 1 minute, 30 seconds, a word of encouragement to anyone that will be watching this at this period.
Okay, I'll try and do it in 1 minute. First of all, Nigeria has all it takes to be a developed country, a leading nation, not just leading in Africa, but leading in the world. We have everything, the natural resources, the human resources, and we have the population and everything. But what is holding us down? We are the ones holding ourselves down. We need to come together and act as one and move forward. The economy has been going down, doesn't mean it will remain so. The economy can be better than what it is now. Our challenge is direction. We need to have a direction. And yes, irrespective of whichever government takes over, things cannot change overnight. But if we agree we want a positive change, then in the next 3 to 4 years, Nigeria will be a heavenly nation that every other person wants to come to and enjoy. But first thing, have you gotten your PVC? How many people have gotten their PVCs? Let us go get our PVC and decide on the future of our nation. The power is in our hands. It is us that needs to stand up, and it's time to get your PVC and decide on who you truly want to run this nation forward, irrespective of the person's tribe, the person's religion, the person's state of origin. It's time we set all those things aside and decide on, what is it we want and who is it that will give this to us, and go out and act on it. When we do that, we will actually move the power from the few that are in power, that are holding power and the money today, and move that power and money to our pockets. Because when we decide who is our leader, the leader is, the leader is responsible to us. But when we don't put a hand in who is our leader, the leader is responsible to themselves, and they run the economy like they are doing now, however they want. It's time we put the power in our hands and decide. So that's all I would say. That's all it will take, really.
That's it. You've heard it. Go get your PVC and cast your vote. Thank you so much, Ayo Emakiome, for joining us on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. It's been an amazing conversation, I must say.
Thank you very much. It's nice being here.
All right, so go on a break now. We'll be back to wrap up the conversation. So stay tuned. And And there you have it. Interesting conversation with our guest, Ayo Emakiome, an economic expert. I believe you've learned one or two things. It is time for us to come together as a nation, get our PVCs, and vote in the right person. And by doing that, you're making a change one way or the other. I am Sarah also. Thank you for joining us. Till I see you next time. Just stay safe. Bye-bye.